Hello, everyone, and welcome to Civ House. I'm Connor. We got Rob here. The whole crew's here today here at Civ House, and today we're going to be talking a little bit more about some of the changes coming in Update 1.2.3. Rob has saw an interesting comment, I believe, in one of our videos talking about age transitions, and so we wanted to dive into that more. We kind of want to, we always love to find ways to interact with our community here. We love all of our subscribers and people who view our videos at Civ House, and we're a small enough channel where we can still feel like we're truly talking and communicating with you all. So we want to do that today a little bit. Rob, you kind of want to give a little bit of a explanation of what it is we're talking about today?
Yeah, before, as always, make sure you like and subscribe if you're new here. We appreciate that. Like, if you're new or not, we appreciate it. And then also shout out to Jacobiened. Part of the membership group, you guys can always jump in on that as well. It helps us quite a bit. Hopefully maybe we'll get some more benefits for that in the future as well. But we've had a lot of comments, Connor, that have talked about these updates, and they're like, it doesn't matter. The game's ruined, like, H transitions suck, all this kind of stuff. And I wanted to discuss, because there was an idea where it was, and it's something that I've been trying to put into words, but I haven't been able to. And somebody in the comments was like, hey, what if you were able to actually carry over, like in some of these other 4X Civ type games, right? Where you can kind of carry over your culture from age to age, and then that would allow you to still feel like you're playing one kind of cohesive-ish game, and then be able to, still get to these civs, right? To be able to do that. Now, I think it would be really complex. I think that's probably the reason why they didn't do that, at the beginning, to be honest. But with the changes that we know for sure are coming so far, and we'll dive into it more next week, once these are actually live. But the idea that, they're already making changes to age transitions, they recognize that it's an issue. Now our units are not just going to be scattered everywhere. Now our, relationships with other civs are not just going to instantly be basically reset, right? All the things that we did in the age before are not just going to be basically wiped away for the most part when you head into the next age. And this has been my biggest issue with age transitions. And I will tell you guys, it has made me play this game significantly less. So I'm not going to be the first one who's out here being like, I love age transitions. We are not shilling out in any way for Civ. Like, I feel like we're pretty good at being able to be critical of them while giving them their flowers.
Yeah,
right?
Pretty balanced.
They are humans, right? They're humans. They tried something new. It hasn't worked. Could you argue, Connor, that maybe we are the beta testers and the real game's coming out later? You could say that about most of these strategy games coming out right now. If you're a fan of Paradox games, that is quite literally what the beginnings of those games are. The DLC are what really adds a lot to most of those games. So I hate to break it to you, but that's kind of how strategy, especially games, work right now. But I wanted to talk, Connor, with you, roundabout way, long way to get here, about age transitions and this idea that, like, in your opinion, do civs need to go back to being like one cohesive thing all the way through history? Yeah. Do you like the changes? Do you like this idea where you could combine them in a little bit more of a certain way? Talk me through it. Where are you at?
Yeah. I actually think, we've talked a lot on this channel about kind of the our take on the developer framework and how they're approaching the game. I think by and large, actually, I appreciate a lot of the changes that the Civ devs have made. I think that I like big swings in games. I like when you have a sequel of a game and it feels very different. So I'm someone I play a lot of sports games, like College Football 26. We've been covering a lot on the website, gamehouse.com. That game feels really good. They made some, I think, positive changes, and it feels like a different version of a sports game, which usually just feel like rinse and repeat. EA just sucks up all the money, right? I appreciate Firaxis and this dev team not doing that with Civ 7. They could have just as easily made a Civ 6 2.0 with cleaner graphics and a different map, and people may have eaten it up. I don't know. But I think for them, they're kind of challenging what it is they do, and we've talked about this a lot, a bit of a dead horse, but I think with age transitions, something I would help me, and I think would help a lot of people, is them feeling less disruptive overall. We've just talked about this. They feel like they are resetting. It feels like it takes you out of the game. It feels like your gameplay is like a flow, and then an age transition's like a huge dip, and then a reset. And that's the part that I think irks people, turns people off. And I would imagine if we had access to analytics, you have a ton of people, ending their games after the Antiquity Age, or if they're, or before the Modern Age or something, right? Like maybe they play 2 of the ages, they're done after that, right? And that is something I think they need to get away from. And I think one of the ways you could do that, and it's what I was hoping was going to come with this last set of changes, was sliders, basically. So how cool would it be if you could have a set of sliders for what stays in between age versus what changes? So like an example being like I start off with the Greeks, and moving into the Exploration Age, I want to maintain a lot of Greek culture. It feels like it's a strong culture. It's what built my empire. I want the Exploration Age to look very Greek, even though we're switching to the Inca or pivoting hard to a very different style Civ, right? I think if you could have something in there like keep the architecture Greek, or keep my, cities named this, or just like different things, or like even if it was just a general like culture slider that you could apply at the end of each age, basically saying, these are the things I want to maintain about my current Civ, these are the things you can go ahead and reset. Because like on the opposite end of the coin, if I viewed the Exploration Age as like, this is a resetting of my culture, this is a resetting of my game. We were in a war, my people want to come out of that, and we're looking to change identities kind of coming out of the war. A lot of nations go through this thing about Japan after World War II. It's a completely different place. Like it's a Western Japan, basically, right? Where it used to be very very anti, very nationalist, right? I think the same kind of thing in Civ could be cool. Like me being able to say, like, I want my empire to really change, add in all these new things, maybe even like some building conversions could happen as a part of that. Basically what I'm getting at, and this doesn't have to be the way it's done, but the idea I'm getting after is, can you give the autonomy, the whole thing, these last few patches, giving the autonomy back to the players, can you do that with age transitions as well, and allow us to really be able to transition ages as we'd like, with some personality to it, with some depth? I don't know if that's the slider example I'm giving here, that's just like a far-fetched idea, but basically what can they do to make that thing possible?
Yeah, because I mean, you can pick, right, your stuff in between ages, but it doesn't feel like you're really keeping the culture, right, or anything like that. You're just basically choosing stats. And I would like for it to be a little more immersive than that, right? I personally also like the fact that you're kind of changing civs over time. It always felt weird. I liked in Civ 4, I think it was when like, it even been 3, but your character would change with time, right? So you'd have Abe Lincoln with a toga on or something like that, and then in the later on he would get into his actual suit that we knew him for as you got closer to the modern age. I think that they need to kind of bring that kind of stuff back, and they've said like they want you to stack on top of each other, right? Like that's the whole reason for overbuilding. No problem with that. I really don't have an issue with that, Connor, because I do think that that's realistic. I do think that that's fun. And I don't mind because we get more civs and more leaders, right? Like, we couldn't have that kind of stuff before. Now you can have so many more options. My issue really becomes that they need to, I think, actually commit to that stacking. Right, I think they need to make it so, like you said, maybe some sliders for at least culture or something like that.
Yeah.
But what I want to see too is like kind of maybe some interactions, right? With how, like, if you go from Greece into the Incas, what does that do, right? And I know that that would take an immense amount of work, and that's what I mean by like when people are like asking for them to change this stuff. Like they had an idea, it didn't work as well as they probably had hoped. You could argue it didn't work at all. I would fully understand if you feel that way. But man, like that would be cool, right? And then eventually you find your way into Great Britain, right, in the modern age. And like, you still have all these great British, sort of buildings. But like you said, like you still have some of those Greek buildings. You still have some of those Incan buildings, we'll say. This would be the wildest freaking pathway to the end of the game, by the way. But now that civs are unlocked, it would make sense, right? And so I think that's part of it. I'm going to throw this out there one more time. I think they need another age, at least one. Like it either needs to be an atomic super modern age, or it needs to be the medieval age. There's still rumors that they're going to, by the way.
Yeah.
They had always intended to. It was just going to come after the first 2 DLC. So we could still see that near the end of the year, and maybe, that's kind of why they had to push everything back, is because they still were working on that age. Because like, you guys have to understand, adding a whole age is not a small deal, right? Because you have to add all new civs, you have to do a whole new, it's basically like, you're doing like 33% of a full game probably for that, right? Based on what we already have. So I understand the frustration with it. I think ultimately, Connor, if they don't end up changing it the way that people like, it's one of the few sources that are still not available to modders right now. They need to unlock it. If this just doesn't hit the way they wanted to with these transitions getting changed and everything, they just need to be like, okay, modders, you guys are the fans. You guys can make the changes, right? And I don't blame them for that. I know that it's like, oh man, I can already see myself getting roasted in the comments for this, but it's like, what did we pay for? We're not paying these modders. I fully get that. I really, really, really do. But we are going down a path where it's like, if things don't start to change, if things don't start to actually, I think, become more fun, right? I really think they are just going to drop this game and move on to 8, which I think some people would like. But then they're going to take less swings. Then it's going to be basically like we're just getting, Civ 6 2.0, which is fine to a certain degree. I don't hate that, but
yeah,
I like that they went for a swing, but mainly just because I really love the fact that we're getting so many more civs and so many more leaders right now.
Yeah, it's funny. I have such a different take. I think that for me, like I wouldn't say I'm not embedded in the Civ community. But I mean, for example, in the last couple of weeks, like we've been covering college football. Like I play other games. Like I mean, we both do, right? So I'm maybe not hearing some of the same kind of like I don't know. I'm not hearing the same discussion within the community about the state of the game, with the exception of like our YouTube comments, checking Reddit occasionally. Like I'm not like disconnected, but I'm not like ultra plugged in on the forums or anything like that, right? So to me, the game is actually on a pretty understandable development cycle. It was released in a state where numbers have gone down. They're slowly chipping away at changes, planning some big ones out, right? So I think if you zoom out, the game's okay. And I don't think you'd necessarily disagree with me here, but like to me, the idea of dipping it and basically saying it's done and going for 8 is ludicrous. And if the fans want that, I just can't understand that. Because we don't even know what Civ 7 is yet. I mean, that's how, and if you've played Civ games for a long time, you should just know this is a part of the deal. This is not anything necessarily new. Yeah, maybe the numbers are a little lower. You can put some marginality in there. Right, stock market has trends. Sometimes they're 10, 20% off. It's kind of the same thing, right? Like we're just experiencing the same cycle we usually do with these games. So, I still enjoy playing the game. Like we're watching my Isabella playthrough right now that I've been really having a lot of fun with. That's a small change to her kit, a rebalancing paired with a new large map. And like, yeah, I get if I were playing Civ as my main game, which to be fair, right now I'm not because, of a lot of the reasons you and I talked about, changes do need to happen. I'm not like saying I don't believe that, right? But I don't know. I feel like for the casual player, or even like the semi-intermediate player, it's honestly on a really good path right now. That being said, if you're an avid everyday Civ player, I could see it being pretty abysmal. But I don't know. We're getting some somewhere removed from the age transitions conversation here. But at the very least, still, I do think that more could be done in that realm. But I don't think it's like we're in this no-fly zone. The game's lost, right? So, and I'm not saying you're saying that, but
talking about I mean, I guess I did kind of say that, but I more meant that like it's not going to be this 1.3.0 change that's going to make or break this game. I'm talking about like, they keep working on this. We're a year down the road, and just nothing that they're doing is putting this game back into a playable state for most people. At that point, as a developer,
you have to ask some questions.
They made money on it. They can probably just chalk it up and be like, hey, we got 2 more years of stuff planned, and they move it up. Instead of it being 10 years, it goes to 7 years. Something like that. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I guess I don't think you need to give up on it. Like, again, I remember playing Civ 5 when it first came out. I think there were only like 10 civs in it, maybe, or something like that. It was a bare bones kind of game. I did stop playing it. I came back. I'm just more like involved now than I was. I still played the game more back with 5. I remember with 6 being like, this is fine, but there's a lot of changes here. I mean, TJ, a guy, by the way, this is why we're wearing these again. We just got done recording Pokemon League stuff, so go check out Haus. We got some good stuff going on over there as well. Regardless, shameless plug. We he would not play Civ 6 for a while. I mean, like, he was like, man, but Civ 5 is great. I mean, my sister even loves Civ games, right? She has really only just started playing Civ 6, even though I've had it since basically the beginning, right? So there are a lot of like fans who are just kind of like 2 or 3 years even behind, and it just takes them a little while. And I know that Civ and their developers know that, and that's where I've been kind of like with this age transition stuff, because I think that this has been the biggest topic of conversation, right? And I think that they need to get this right, Connor, so that people can start enjoying the game again.
Yeah,
and I think that that's where, we're going to have to see more change from it. They are making good progress on it, but again, for a system that is as big as age transitions, they need more time, because I can tell you right now, they are gun shy, and they are not going to put something out unless they are really sure it's going to work.
Yeah. And I think this is a good point to kind of like settle on and agree on, is that at the end of the day, I think most Civ fans can agree, if a significant positive change is made to age transitions, we will play more. And I think that is something the developers have heard pretty loud and clear, but need to continue to hear from the community, is that, listen, a lot of the base part of the game is good. If I could get excited about going from the Antiquity Age to the Exploration Age because all these cool new things are going to happen, that's awesome. That's a huge, huge, huge win for developers if they can make that happen, especially going from Exploration to Modern. Like, I will be honest, I've probably played through full Modern Ages. I could probably count the number of times on 1 or 2 hands, right? And I've played a lot of Civ 7. So that is a problem. That's not what their game should be about. Like, there should be a lot more immersion to it that keeps you invested in your Civ, etc., 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 right? Could just be my fried attention span as well from Reels and TikTok, who knows? But at the end of the day, Rob, I think we can both agree age transition could use some work. We are really excited to see what does come down the pipe. Appreciate all of our fans for continuing to tune in. I mean, again, this is a game that's been through a tumultuous cycle. I think it's torn a lot of people. I think it can be very divisive. We try to kind of bring it all together here at Civ House. We're a house, family, right? That's kind of the things we hope will ring in your minds when you watch our videos. We're not out here trying to sever any heads of the development team or anything crazy like that. We like the game. We just think, like a lot of people, like a lot of sensible people out there, we just think it could use some changes. That's what we're trying to get at here. But that is going to do it, though, for our discussion this week. We're excited to see what comes through the pipe. 1.2.3 is going to be cool to see. Future change is going to be cool to see. I'm excited to keep playing, like a Maisville Let's Play, some other things like that for the channel. If you all want to see any other kinds of content, though, be sure to let us know. And otherwise, from our house to yours, we hope you'll join us for one more turn here at Civ House. We'll see you next time.